you grew Barely Opinionated to close to 300k followers. Why sell it?
I wanted to keep the vision of Barely Opinionated pure, which is to deliver unbiased information, but the business came in between that.
What were some common reasons that people were giving for the lower acquisition value?
There is no tangible asset to a media company. Yes, you could have equipment, yes, you could have certain capital investments that you would have made, but at the end of it, it's more about the perception that people have about your brand.
Was it a lot of money when you got acquired?
I've seen acquisitions go wildly wrong, specifically with media. How do you keep your thoughts straight?
Great question again, man. You've asked me like 2-3 questions and all of them have been bombs. One of the biggest things about acquisitions, whenever a company gets acquired, in most cases, the founder also gets acquired.
So if let's say today someone was making research heavy content or political content, what would you say are like the first things that they should prioritize?
My very honest opinion, don't be a content creator. Very difficult to make it. There are too many people that see the glamour and that want to get into it. And the barrier to entry into this industry is very, very low.
What are some things that has to be happening in my page for somebody who's looking for acquisition?
I think the biggest thing for an acquisition to work out should be that is your channel able to pull advertisements or not. If it's not able to show people that it's making money through the channel, then it's not going to work out.
So Rohit, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Of course.
I'd like to jump right in. You grew Barely Opinionated to close to 300k followers.
Yeah, across
subscribers
platforms.
across platforms. Why sell it?
When last year in the beginning of 2024, we had big visions for what we wanted to do with Barely Opinionated. And I was sort of very focused towards that, right? But then throughout the 4 years of building Barely Opinionated, one of the biggest things was that I wanted to keep the vision of Barely Opinionated pure, which is to deliver unbiased information. But the business came in between that, right? How do we pay the team? How do we go bigger? And that brought the agency model into our business. And that agency model sort of took over most of the ops than the content that we were doing at Barely Opinionated, right? So in that process of staying profitable, building the business, growing bigger and bigger and bigger, I felt like I had started to lose vision of what I had started Barely Opinionated with. And also that we started getting acquisition offers last year around April, May of that year, right? And these acquisition offers were some of the big names in the industry, which I was very excited about because my vision since the start of Barely Opinionated has obviously been to build Barely Opinionated, but more importantly, to go deeper into this industry and the creator economy and to learn as much as possible, right? So with these acquisition offers that we had gotten, I had the vision that it would be a much bigger thing for me to get acquired and work with those bigger players that I was getting acquired by, which would help me learn a lot more, right? So those were reasons that I had started. One was that I had started losing vision of Barely Opinionated. Second was that I had these acquisition offers which were very, very fruitful for me, which I was very keen towards. But then for whatever reasons, they didn't work out very well. They weren't paying enough. They weren't valuing the brand as much as we wanted them to value. And my co-founder, Razan, who's the founder of the Hub Bengaluru as well, he basically said that instead of selling it, why don't you give it to me? Because I want to grow it. I see a lot more potential and I want to run it and see where it goes, right? So at the end, what ended up happening was that Azan basically acquired the entire company and him and his team are sort of running the entire operations right now. So these were two major reasons for me to sell it.
What were some common reasons that people were giving for the lower acquisition value that they were telling you?
See, most importantly, that's a great question. The most important aspect about a media companies and these acquisitions you don't see very often, right? Like the closest that comes is maybe like a Miss Malini acquisition that was a failure. There comes a Scoop Whoop acquisition that happened in 2021 and then now, which again that at that point was a failure, which makes more sense now. There is no tangible asset to a media company, right? Yes, you could have equipment. Yes, you could have certain capital investments that you would have made. But at the end of it, it's more about the perception that people have about your brand. For example, you could be getting a 20,000 views or the other person could be getting 200,000 views. Now, the quality of views matters a lot, right? You as a creator would know the quality of views much better than someone from an outside point of view, right? So, at the end, the value of a media company ends up being the perception that the other person has and the need that the other person has for this particular asset, right? So I knew that the kind of audience that we had built was very intellectual and high quality, right? But those other people that were sort of giving us acquisition offers didn't really see it that way. They saw it more from the point of view कि हाँ इतना followers है, इतना subscribers है, तो इतना पैसा मिलेगा. That kind of.
You mentioned high quality, right? Like almost all of us make content here. Most likely the people who are watching also make content. How do you make that assessment if your audience is, I wouldn't say high quality, but like how do you categorize your quality of audience, right? Are there do you look at where they're from or the language that they speak or any demographics? What are the things that you should look at?
Basic demographics, of course. Language, English is higher paying than say Hindi. Age, 24 to 35 is much bigger than 18 to 24. Gender, male versus female, depending on what sort of content you're creating, right? Because usually the male audience, for example, if you're running a fintech company, right? The male audience would be more important for you than a female audience simply because the male audience is more inclined towards the fintech side then. But if you're running a beauty company, the female audience will play an important role than a male audience, right? So that way, basic demographic understanding is there. Second is what is the subject matter you're talking about, right? Now, for example, you guys are creating content around the creator economy, right? My point of view in this niche or the TAM that we have, which you call like the total addressable market, right? In India is very high in terms of people wanting to create content. But how many of those are there in the English category? You guys are creating content primarily in English, right? So that way now you have a filter of key. If it's in English, then you have a much higher paying audience, right? Now you are going into a deeper dive conversation of the creator economy. That creates again a much larger funnel of what sort of audience is going to be filtered into it, right? So although you might have say 2,000, 3,000 views right now, those 2,000, 3,000 views are more fruitful for you or more valuable to you than say an Instagram audience who's going to give you say 20,000, 30,000 views, right? So it's very perception based. I'm giving you a perception because I understand your audience. Someone on the outside will come and see your content and will look at your views and say, "Bhai, 2,000 views hai, kya kar raha hai tu?" Right? That's the general understanding.
Right. No, that makes sense. Was it a lot of money when you got acquired? Like, was it?
It was decent enough for me to be happy with the acquisition, and for like even when that acquisition was happening and I was planning out what to do next, I had the flexibility to not have to worry about money for the next few years, right? And I had the flexibility of being able to, if I wanted to start something of my own. One thing that I believe in is everything happens for a reason, right? Even though I wanted to build something of my own, there were a lot of people that were interested to build something with me, right? People were giving me money to oh, you have had acquisition, take my money, you build whatever you want, right? But I couldn't figure out any idea. I didn't know what I want to do next, right? And I'm still in that phase of trying to figure out, at least from the content point of view, because I want to stick to doing content, but I don't know what I want to do. But what worked out is the whole Zerodha thing, which I'm now part of, right? Which was, again, a big thing for me, because when I was building Barely Opinionated, and there's the most honest thing I'm going to tell you, right? When I was building Barely Opinionated, I always thought that if I had to ever shut down Barely Opinionated for whatever reason, the next thing I'm going to do is get a cushy 9-to-5 job, because I've already had that entrepreneurial journey. I want a stable life. I want a stable income. And I want to work on the brand side simply because they would have more budgets for me to experiment with, right? Which I didn't have with Barely Opinionated. We ran Barely Opinionated in a very bootstrap manner, very cash efficient. One of the most proudest aspect of building Barely Opinionated was that we were able to do it profitably, right? Which was a big win for me to be able to do that. But then with that also came a lot of stinginess in terms of how I want to spend my money. That's why I wanted to work with a brand, and luck has it that I ended up working with a brand that has so much budget that there is so much room to experiment and play around with.
Right. I think we'll get to the Zerodha part, especially because the episode that we have just released, highest viewed episode so far, has been about Zerodha and Pratik and everything that's been happening on the brand side with content. But I want to double tap onto your experience at BO a little bit more, right? Especially on the ops side. So you just mentioned that you guys were doing, like, you were bootstrapped and you were profitable. Talk to me more about the operations of BO. How many people did you have? Maybe if you can tell us some details about what was the expenses like, or where were you spending some of this money? And if, at the end, what were some non-obvious insights that you found running BO in a successful manner, like in a way that you could get acquired at the end?
Let me start from the beginning of BO, right? So it started off with me and a friend back in October of 2020. I started BO with the point of view that yes, I wanted to solve a problem, which was that people need to get factual information on social media, but also that if this doesn't work out, I have a portfolio to show if I want to get hired, right? Because I wanted to get into the marketing space. So my friend and I started with that in 2020. It was for 1 year I would have maybe spent, say, 30,000 rupees on like software and all of that. I had zero experience in content. I had zero experience in video, nothing, right? So everything I learned was on the job. By October of 2021, we had an Instagram base of about 15-20,000 people. Okay, at that point, I met Azan, who's the founder of the Hub Bengaluru. Now, Azan parallelly was building out his media space, which is the Hub Bengaluru on Instagram. He was building out studio spaces in his thing, and he had co-living and all of that. So that time, Azan was running something called as the Entrepreneur in Residence program, wherein me and my friend got selected, right? At this point, we have not registered the company. We're not thinking of the business seriously, right? I have a vision, right? And at that point, my vision was also that, okay, I will build this distribution. And with that, because I had done a lot of soft skill training in college for students, right? So my idea was that, okay, I will build this, and I'd done a lot of debating as well. So I wanted to do debating workshops. I wanted to do soft skill workshops and all that. So I thought, okay, I'll build an audience and then I'll sell like soft skill courses and whatever. And then Azan came in. I became part of this Entrepreneur in Residence program, which was a 3-month program where I could work out of there and stay there for free while helping them with their content. Okay, so October is when I got in. Azan really liked what we were doing, and Azan from the get-go was like, listen, I like what you guys are doing. We are building in the similar space. I would love for us to build this business together. I can help you, you can help me. We will put in some money and we will register the company and do it. October is when that conversation started. October is when I became part of that program. I stayed there for 3 months, and through that process, my friend, who was a big part of doing all that research and stuff, he decided to drop because he wanted to go pursue his masters and all of that. So that again became an operational challenge because he used to take care of the heavy lifting of the research, which is a big aspect of our company. I had zero clue about it, right? But by that time, what we had done was, because this page was so mission driven, we had gotten interns who were doing content for us just pure out of passion. We were not paying them anything, right? So this was the operations part of it. We got like 8 to 9 college students or UPSC aspirants who really loved what we were doing, who wanted to write on their own, and they came because it was mission driven, and they started contributing for free, right? So once my friend left, I relied on these guys, and it turns out that these guys became extremely reliable, right? And that also happened because of the kind of approach I had with them, the kind of relationship I'd built with all of them. And even though we were putting out 3 pieces of content a day, heavily researched 3 pieces of content a day, it was still running smoothly, even though he decided to skip, right? So that happened by December. I had completely taken over all of the research operations and all of that. February, Azan and I registered the company. Now, Azan coming into the picture sort of changed a lot of things. One was that I was running it out of my room. That changed because he had a studio and co-working space, right? Which became a huge part of the deal that we had, that I would be able to use the co-working space, the studio spaces, the equipments that he had, because he had done a very good setup as a studio, right? You've seen the entire setup as well. And that allowed for us to subsidize a lot of our costs. I didn't have to spend on rent. I didn't have to spend on equipment. I didn't have to spend on studio space and everything. That played a big role. Then came the experience that he had, right? He already had built businesses. He had a team which was more experienced than me. So the whole reason I got into video, I remember, was probably January of 2022, right? Which was slightly later than I had done video. I was trying to do video before also, but I wasn't seeing enough views. It was becoming tiresome. I was literally I was the one doing after a point, I was the one doing the scripting. I was the one doing the topic identification. I was literally shooting the video on my own. I was editing the video on my phone. That too with I didn't want to pay for the software, so I just did it on free tools. I used to use Canva ka paid version to do thumbnails, and so it was a very so I have, through that experience, right, that has taught me to be in the thick of it, of everything, right? So I understand designing to the core of it. I understand video editing. I understand production to the core of it. I understand research to the core of it. Just everything through and through, right? And that is something that I tell, when creators come to me as well, I tell them this, that just do things on your own right now. Even if you have money to invest, please figure out and do things on your own so that you understand the entire operations and then start giving it out to other people. So Marcus Browley said this really, really interesting thing, which was that a creator is an octopus. Think of the creator as an octopus, right? And this is I'm butchering the entire thing, but I'll still try to put it as good as possible. An octopus has 3 hearts, right? And has 7 to 8 legs, right? Think of all the operations you're doing as a creator as the legs, right? So one leg is research, one leg is ideation, one leg is strategy, one leg is video editing, one leg is graphic designing, one leg is channel management and all of that, right? You're an octopus, you have to do all of that once, right? As and when you start realizing that, okay, video editing is something that is not my forte, someone else can do better, but I've understood it, cut off that leg, right? Octopus does that, they cut off their legs, right?
I mean, I don't think octopus cut off their legs.
But they can survive. The idea is that they can survive without that
losing a leg.
On losing a leg, right? They can survive on losing that leg, and that's the idea. Ki start cutting off each of your legs as and when you feel that you don't want to do it or someone else can do it better than you. And the 3 hearts that the octopus has are the 3 core things that are core to you, right? Now, what was core to me was the strategy, was the general content creation and the topics that were going out, and the entire branding aspect of the business, right? So these were the 3 hearts to me. So I kept those 3 hearts to myself, and I cut off those legs as and when I could. Which was, and even initially when I got video editors or designers, they were also working on an unpaid basis, right? So it was all mission driven until I would say March or April of 2022, when Azan and I registered the company. Both of us put in a little bit of money, and then we decided that it's important for us to, if you're going video first, we need to hire a video editor. It's important for us to get a designer, because I was the one doing all of it. So initially we had hired 3 people: editor, designer, and a researcher, right? So these 3 things I had sort of given off by mid of 2022, and then I started focusing on the business, because we had to start making money as well, because it didn't make sense for us to we weren't making any money at all through even through advertisements, because our channel was small. By that time we had probably hit 100K, right? But at 100K also monetization wasn't as much. And then I started working on the agency side, wherein we started getting on clients. And again, the agency side, how you guys know how it works. Same way we were running it. So whatever money we were making through agency, we were investing it into the media side of it. And that operations ran. And at the peak of it, I had, I think, 7 to 8 people that were working. 2 of them were video people, 2 of them were designers, the rest were in the research aspect of it. We had also gotten 1 person to help us with brand deals, but that didn't work out, so we got rid of him. And we had an extended team of 15 people. So 7 people were core to us. The other 8 people were sort of, again, those research interns that I was talking about, but this time it became more of a paid thing, right? We started paying them a little bit of money for doing research for us and everything. So extended team became 18, which were freelancers, interns, and full-time.
Did things change at all once ChatGPT came into the picture? Because, I mean, research-heavy content is like the prime use case for ChatGPT.
Perplexity and ChatGPT became our bread and butter after a point, right? And that way I could cut off, because again, when you work with interns and like freelancers, it's very unreliable to trust them also, right? Especially because we were doing 2 to 3 pieces a day, and that required you have to be on the go. So that once AI came in, ChatGPT and Perplexity sort of helped us not have to rely on those freelancers, and the internal team itself, like the two of them that were there and me, three of us could sort of manage the entire research and ops that was happening.
Right. So I feel like you were in a very unique position to have found something like the hub and Azan and that situation, right?
Like I said, everything happens for a reason, right? So that also, again, each step that I have been in has put me in difficult positions and then has also given me a choice to get out of that difficult position in some way or the other. Because October of 2021, when Azan came into the picture, I was literally in September, I was in a phase where I was like really contemplating, should I go forward with this? I'm wasting my time. I need to get a career. My parents are also like, what the fuck are you doing? And Azan came in, right? Last year, I was in a position where I want to go big, but we were in a position where we were not able to go big. Acquisition offers came in, then things worked out. And then I was again in a position where I was like, fuck, what do I do next? And Zerodha came in. Right. So it's a, like, people say things are a factor of luck. I've seen it firsthand.
No, that makes sense. But I feel like that is something that's really unique and maybe not accessible to everyone that's making content, right? So if, let's say, today someone was making research heavy content or political content or anything that is in the realm of what you were doing, what would you say are like the first things that they should prioritize? Is it a team? Is it like equipment and quality of the content that they're making? I asked because we were discussing this. Coincidentally, one of the advantages that we believe we have is just like pure quality, right? Like we have access to the space. We happen to have equipment. Like we were thinking, okay, 3%, we've tried 2 camera angles before, it's not really working. Let's try a third one, right? That's not something that like a normal podcaster that is bootstrapping it will be able to do, right? It just so happens that we have like, if we need thumbnail designer, we just go and reach out to someone. Like I know a bunch of people, or we already have video editors and we've had experience making content before, so we can do. So that's not normal. That's our unfair advantage. But assuming that someone who has access to capital and who wants to get into this space, what are some popular myths that you would want to debunk? And what are some things that they should most definitely invest in that are non-obvious and don't make sense on the surface, but clearly from an experience, like those are the things that need the most money?
One of the most obvious things that everyone says is that don't become a full-time creator. It's the worst thing to do. Again, content creation is just like being an entrepreneur. Again, being a content creator is like being an entrepreneur, right? It may work out, it may not work out. It's a factor of luck. It's a factor of your skills and everything. So first thing is don't become a full-time creator. If you want to become a creator, build it as a side hobby. Right? If you see it working out at some point, but again, as a side hobby also, it has to be, the second thing that I want to say is consistency, obviously. All of these are very obvious things that I'm telling you. I'll come to the non-obvious ones.
So is this a myth or is this something that you recommend?
I recommend. It's not a myth.
Very interesting. I don't agree, but I'll tell you why.
You tell me whatever you agree with. But I jumped into content creation full time, which was good and bad, right? Like why you may not agree with me is simply because that. And to a certain extent, I'll tell you why it helped me jump into content creation full time is because there was a safety net for me, right? So not having that safety net really put me in a position where I had to make it work somehow or the other.
Exactly.
Right? And in that position of making it work somehow or the other, I did a bunch of things and I landed up here. So both have its pros and cons, right? It really depends on how dedicated you can be, or do you think you're a lazy person? If yes, then again, the side hustle is not going to work out, right? But if you think that you can really put your mindset into, like, if you've decided to do something and you're going to do it, then it works as a side hustle, right? So both have its pros and cons. I recommend highly that don't become a full-time creator,
okay,
right?
That's one.
Because there is no, again, as a content creator also, even if you're successful, very, very less chances of you being successful. On top of that, you making a significant impact and money out of it is to another level, right? So absolutely disastrous situation to be a creator full time. Second, I told is consistency, of course. Third thing, like I said before, you have to do everything on your, even if you, like, Ambani could come to you and be like, ye lo paise mere liye banao, right? But until you know how it works and you've been in the thick of it, like, you've been in the thick of it, I know that, right? Based on your experience, I'm guessing you've been in the thick of it. You've done everything yourself, you've understood it yourself and then gotten into it, right? I have been in the thick of it, I understand it, so I know how things work. You're able to probably, say, reach to a video editor, thumbnail designer, because you've been able to build that network by doing it yourself. And same in my case as well, right? Throughout my journey, I've seen creators who are very rich, right? Who have the money to just throw around, who have thrown around money to get things done, who have not been successful enough simply because they're just throwing money because they think that is what they need to do, right? So no fancy equipment, no, like you could get Mr. Beast strategists to give you strategy of what you need to do, right? And you still won't be successful if you don't understand content creation to its core. So that's my ideology. So you do everything on your own. Don't just throw money. Fancy equipment is not going to help you. A team is not going to help you unless you understand everything on your own. That is a big thing that I tell every creator. My very honest opinion, don't be a content creator. Don't be a content creator. Very, very honestly. Like I said, it's very difficult to make it. There are too many people that see the glamour and that want to get into it. That there's too much competition, and the barrier to entry into this industry is very, very low. Right. You need a camera, and you don't even need a mic at this point, simply because you have AI tools that are going to clear your audio, right? I don't recommend being a creator.
Right. I'll tell you why I disagree, right? So I have seen a lot of people, and actually I would say the same advice. I would give the same advice to people that you don't do this full time, right? But if you look back and you look at all the people who have become successful, they have done it full time, right? You did it full time. I did it full time. Now there are certain, there are caveats to it that we did not do it full time, I'm sure, with no safety net, right? I'm sure you had some sort of financial backing.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? It could be some
that
savings.
My family was
it
supportive.
could be family, right?
Yeah.
I think that is more important than having a job, because the minute, I'm a big fan of Kobe, and he said, I don't believe in putting eggs in multiple baskets. Put all your eggs in one basket, and if that basket goes away, get new eggs, right? It's very simple. So I'm a big believer in that philosophy, and it makes sense that things will not work out, and most likely they will not work out. It's almost like startups. I would say that content creation is not like entrepreneurship, it is entrepreneurship, right? It is just it has a different front end to it.
I agree with getting into the thick of it, but I also think that there is a lot of skill required to be able to do content. Yeah. So if you sort of, like you said, 3 hearts, if you figure out your 3 hearts, you'll probably end up making money out of these 3 hearts. You'll become a specialist in that, and probably you'll not end up being a content creator, but you'll be a cog in the whole system, and you will somehow figure out a space for yourself, is what I would say.
Yeah, one thing to my advantage was that when I started, I was very naive, right? I didn't know jack shit. So it was easier for me to not have to think about, these are the problems I could be facing, right?
Dude, naive optimism is one of the best things ever, man.
That's what every founder and every entrepreneur needs.
You be like, dude, I will fucking go and do it. I will conquer it out.
Now, the fear of doing content in me is much more now than it was at that point.
Because the stakes are so much higher.
Not just the stakes are higher, but because I know the trouble I'm going to go through, the challenges that I'm going to face, right? When you don't have clarity and when you don't know everything, it's much easier to do things. That is, so again, it's just opportunity. There's a concept called opportunity cost in economics, right? The idea is that you choose one, you're going to lose the other. And so there is always giving and taking on both aspects of it. It's just about what position in life are you to be able to choose what you want to choose.
Right. Also, I had one question, because I've seen acquisitions go wildly wrong, specifically with media. It just goes bad most of the time. How were you able to keep your thoughts straight, and what if somebody is probably around the space where they are trying to get acquired or something?
Great question again, man. You asked me 2-3 questions and all of them have been bombs.
How do you keep your thoughts straight, and how do you sort of convince yourself to, you have to go that extra mile to do it? Don't just compromise here. You just see it through to the end.
Okay, so one of the biggest things about acquisitions is that whenever a company gets acquired, in most cases, the founder also gets acquired.
It's an acqui-hire.
Acqui-hire, right? I would essentially become an employee there, right? And I knew that, right? So in my other acquisition offers, I was clear that, okay, I'm okay being an employee there. I wanted more experience. I wanted to work with more money and work with people that are better than me to learn more. But in this case, my offer was designed in such a manner, and I made sure to design it in such a manner where I am getting slightly lesser money than what I could have gotten. But I have no lock-in. I was free from the day, like 31st November was my, or 30th November was my last day. 1st December, I was a free man. So I could do whatever I want. And that I had to, like, I knew it, and I had heard so many stories of founder acquisitions going completely haywire and wrong. So that was something that I made sure कि ठीक है, जो भी होता है, you give me less money, but, and because again, money plays an important role, but like you said, right, I had the safety net of my family and everything, right, and it's not like I come from a background where I need financial support, right? So that way I was able to compromise on the money aspect simply for my freedom, and that plays a big role in any acquisition that happens. Why? Did I answer your question? I don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think if someone were to go out and get their page acquired, right, or sell their content, sell their distribution, how can someone go about it? Like, what's the playbook?
There is no playbook. Like, just find people. I think the best thing to do is find people who understand the space, right? Talk to them, and they'll probably be able to help you out, right? I know a lot of people right now out there who want to sell their pages, but they can't. One, because they think that they will be able to make a lot of money. You can't make a lot of money, right? Like, again, in my case, I didn't make life-changing money. I made decent enough money that made the 4 years of hard work comfortable for me, for all the sacrifice I had to do, and also gave me a safety net for my future and for me to be able to do whatever I want. Most importantly, the acquisition worked out for me in my case was because, and again, I'm telling it very honestly, is that it's a good stance to be in than just saying that, okay, I shut down the company and did something else, right? I was seeing opportunities outside of BO that were much bigger and fruitful for me. So that is the reason the acquisition happened in my case, right? So in most cases, if someone wants to get their page acquired, it's unlikely that it is going to happen. If it has to happen, there are 2 to 3 players that I know currently in this industry who might be interested in doing it. One of them is a good, like Arihant from WLDD. I don't know if you know him. Right?
Yeah.
Arihant is a big. He understands the space a lot, right? And he's been on the front of either investing in pages or acquiring these media pages. So he is a good person if anyone wants to say get acquired. He would be a good person to talk to. I don't know what position he's in right now, whether he's still acquiring pages or not. He's actually the only guy that I know who's actively acquiring channels and pages. Otherwise, you could be big enough to say go to a Geo, because Geo is investing a lot in content, right? If you see the Geo Hotstar play, and Geo Hotstar has a particular space called Sparks now, wherein they are getting again, these are for bigger creators. They're getting creators to do shows on Sparks, right? And that way they're investing a lot. So if you can show them a roadmap, I'm sure they would have enough money to throw.
Is this the comedian IPL thing that I saw recently? I think I saw this in yesterday's or day before yesterday's match, where like there were a couple of comedians who are coming together from the Tanmay Bhatt stream, and they're talking about
that
IPL.
They have been doing for a long time. That's not the same thing. Sparks is basically they're building IPs with creators. So they're building shows with creators essentially.
Is there any indicator that people should look out for? Let's say I'm running a page and I have, say, 200k followers or whatever. What are some things that has to be happening in my page for somebody who's looking for acquisition to have me in like a positive?
One is, are you able to make good money through advertisements on the channel? Right? Because that plays a very big role, right? Because that shows ki, okay, your channel is relevant. That shows that your channel has good views, it has good interactions, it has good engagement, right? So I think the biggest thing for an acquisition to work out should be that is your channel able to pull advertisements or not. If it is able to, then there are more chances for you to get a good offer. If it's not able to show, or if it's not able to show people that it's making money through the channel, then it's not going to work out. So I think the biggest factor that I would say is, are you able to make money through the channel?
It doesn't matter how many followers you have. How good is your ad revenue?
How good is your ad revenue is one very important aspect. Obviously, the kind of audience matters. Like, for example, if you're building a completely finance page, which has a hardcore finance audience, yes, you could go to a fintech company and like there was this one acquisition that had happened called for Fin for All, if I'm not wrong. Fin for All is an Instagram page which was doing really well.
Is this the one with that girl?
With that girl, finance mommy or whatever that she was being coined, right? This acquisition happened back in 2022. if I'm not wrong.
I did not know it got
Yeah.
acquired. Very interesting. Who bought it?
Jupiter.
Whoa.
But it didn't work out. I don't know the exact numbers. It was again,
Hush, hush.
huh?
Hush inside.
It's again, it's not hush hush. The numbers I've heard, I don't want to just throw it out because it's not that much also. And the acquisition happened, I believe, I don't know those guys properly, but what the grapevine is that they also were hired into Jupiter to manage the page and all of that. But that page died. It completely like flopped, right? And that is what happens with all of these acquisitions. In most cases, 99% of the cases, it doesn't work out, right? Barely Opinionated is like Azan has done a good job in sort of building that page. Now it's growing also. It's getting more views than it was before. The content type has changed, which I wouldn't have probably executed myself. But what Azan has been able to do with the acquisition is pretty phenomenal.
So you sell BO, and how does this 01 thing come about?
It's again, right place, right time. Everything happens for a reason. November I exited. December first week I was chilling, right? And it so happened that I was taking a trip with my family, like a short trip with my family, and then I randomly get a call from the YAS team. So YAS is basically Varun Maya's agency wing, right? I know them very well, and I was very well in touch with them. They knew what I was doing and all of that. So I get a call from them saying that, hey, listen, Zerodha's Hindi channel, they have a channel called Markets by Zerodha, Hindi, right? Hindi channel is looking for an anchor. We really need it, and they used to do daily episodes, right? So they wanted someone immediately. They were like, can you come tomorrow to do a test shoot? Right now, what happened was I wasn't able to. I was like, "Okay, I'll be able to do it." Like it was a weekend. I was like, "Yeah, I'll come on Monday." Right? So like, "Okay, I'll send you all the details." They didn't send me any details. Right? This is a very funny story. I was like, "Yaar, if this works out, it'll be good for me." Because again, it gives me something to do right now, even though I'm on a break. Like I'll just have to shoot. I'll have to spend like 2-3 hours. I'll make a decent money also because you know it's a YouTube deal where I'll have to shoot like 20 to 24 pieces every single day in their studio. I don't have to do research. I don't have to do writing. All I have to do is be in front of the camera and shoot, which I love doing. Right? So Monday afternoon, I'm just like, fuck, what do I do? Then I remembered, oh yes, I know Sagar from Zerodha, who is the VP of marketing, who's the main guy at Zerodha, right? And he's the one who's the brainchild behind the whole shift of Zerodha into content and 01 and all of that, right? Him and few other people are sort of the brainchild behind it. So I knew him from my Barely Opinionated days, and I just randomly we were still in touch, and I was telling him, hey, listen, put me in the 01 network. I really want to do something, right? I was talking to him already. So I just texted him, hey, Sagar, I heard you guys need an anchor. I would love to do it. He's like, can you go today? I'm like, yeah, I can go today. So he's like, okay, you talk to this guy. I spoke. I went, did a tester. Next day, my thing started also, right? So it was just a factor of right place, right time, all of that, right? So I did that for 3 months, right? For December, January, February, every single day I was going from Kormangla to Hebbal every night, and the shoot used to happen every night, right? It was a struggle, but then it was fun also because I was not doing anything else at that point, and it was making me good money as well. And in that process, again, the YAS guys, Rohit and Lavina there, who run the YAS operations, they were like, why don't you join us full time? We have so much, and they're doing really great work. I wanted to join them also, but again, the only thing that was stopping me was that I wanted to stay away from the agency landscape of everything. But I was like, if you guys really want me to join full time for this, I will join Zerodha. I won't join the agency side, right? Because I knew if I'm joining Zerodha, I'll be on the brand side rather than the agency side, which is a better situation for me overall, right? So I spoke to Sagar. Sagar was also like, let's you explore for 2-3 months, because I was also getting offers from a lot of other companies to join them, agencies, fintech companies and all of that. And at the end, it ended up happening that Zerodha immediately had an opening sometime in February. I was like, I'll come in. And again, one thing to learn here for people watching, I took a cut on the amount of money I could be making simply because I wanted to join Zerodha. Again, the money factor is where I took a cut simply because I knew that I'll be able to learn a lot more and I have a lot more to do there than any other place. So I was ready to sort of take that shave in the money. So a big aspect of people like me and you, especially in our age group, is that paisa. when you think of money as a second factor and you think of the first factor as, say, what is it you're able to achieve or what is it you're able to do, then it puts you in a much better position.
No, that makes sense. I feel like I heard this thing in some podcast called network effects, right? And increasing the surface area of your luck. And I think moves like that definitely do it. Actually, this podcast is our attempt to increase the surface area of not just our
The
luck,
stories
but
that you told me when I came here of you, say, meeting him or getting the job that you had before is all a part of your surface area
Right.
increase, right?
Exactly.
That is what content gives you, that opportunity to increase the
Exactly.
luck surface area, right? So content by itself, when I say that you shouldn't become a full-time creator, is because content by itself cannot do what you want it to do. But content can give you a lot more asymmetrical returns, which cannot be valued in numbers, right? Like me simply being connected to Sagar from Zerodha, me simply having relations, say, with WLDD or Yas or all of these bigger people that I'm in touch with right now, is all asymmetrical returns that I'm getting just by building Barely Opinionated, which no amount of money could have gotten.
it gets you in rooms that you wouldn't have the right to be in
For
otherwise.
sure. I'll tell you one story, right? So back in 23 February, right, I had the opportunity. So Varun Maya was hosting this mixer sort of a thing, and this was the early stages of when they were building AV as well. So he was hosting sort of a mixer / housewarming for himself, where he just posted a story. Hey, listen, any creators over 100K want to come to my house? I'm hosting a get together. I'm like, yeah, for sure, I want to go. I texted him. He's like, okay, come. And I went, and I had zero idea of what sort of people will be there. I landed up in that room. Finance with Sharan came in. Raj Shamani is there. Prakhar ke Pravachan. I don't know if you guys know that channel. That time it was slightly smaller, right? But I was one of the, I was an early adopter of that guy because I love that guy, right? So he was one of my biggest, I would say one of the biggest creators I looked up to, and I saw him in person, right? And I'm seeing all of these people that I'm seeing on screen come into life. And this is again like early 2023 when I'm still not gotten that much exposure to this industry, right? And Tanmay Bhatto came in after a point, right? So I'm like, fuck, I'm in a room with all of these people. I'm so intimidated. I'm so like, I'm shitting bricks at this point, right? Because in my head, I don't deserve to be in this room. I haven't achieved much. I haven't done enough to put myself in that room. But just being in that room was a signaling, right? Was a factor of like, okay, there is something to this, right? Which and again, like I reached his house probably around 8:39, and I ran out of his house around 10:30, 10:45 simply because I was getting so intimidated and so like, fuck, what am I doing here, right? But it just increased my confidence so much more and gave me a validation that, fuck, if I can land up in this room just by doing fucking Barely Opinionated, imagine where I can be.
But super interesting, man. Tell me about the experience of being around What the Fuck or 01, Zerodha in general, because I feel like as creators, they have come up as like this nexus of content, right? Like this center point where Nikhil is able to connect a lot of business with a lot of media, with what he's doing. And of course, what you guys are doing at 01. What's it like being among so many creators or among so many, like literally the top 1% of media in India?
So let me break it down for you, right? And again, this should give you a lot of clarity for the people watching as well. WTF by itself is a separate media company, right? Which is completely Nikhil's, although obviously we are also in some way or the other involved a little bit, but it's something that's completely Nikhil's, right? So the Zerodha team doesn't really get involved. Sagar obviously is like the main guy, so he's also always looking into everything. So WTF operates completely separately. There's nothing to do with us. 01 channel that you see, where Pratik comes and everything, that runs separately in Noida. They have their office in Noida, which is the Learn App team which we have, and they sort of run the entire 01 channel and everything. Now inside Zerodha, what we look at is obviously The 01 was enabled by Zerodha, right? So we work closely with them. WTF to a certain extent, like a lot of the things, because they are also now a production wing. They have their own production wing now. A lot of our production work happens through WTF, so that we work in. So Zerodha is a sort of a central point at this point. 01 is one side of it. WTF is one side of it. The 01 network is something that Zerodha team looks into, which I look into. Zerodha itself is doing a lot of content. Like we have 3 channels in the market space which is doing content every day that we do. Zerodha in itself does a lot of content. We have the Rain Matters wing which has like 3 different channels which does a lot of content. And we are also coming up with something more IPs internally for Zerodha. All of that we look into. And we work closely with Yas, which is the production company. They manage 90% or 85% of all our production work, right? So that is how it looks. Now, talking about what it's like, the sort of mindset change, I now feel like before joining Zerodha, I used to have conversations, right? Like I would sit with people like you and other people and have a lot of these content related conversations. But the conversations we were having were very on the fly. Ye banda ye kar raha hai, this guy is doing that and all of that, right? And we were sort of envying all of these people. And I was like, oh, we need to learn from this guy. Oh, we need to learn from that guy. And all of that is still there. But then at that point, those were conversations that were on the fly, right? Those were not really things that we could do at that point. But now, after getting into Zerodha, I have had the opportunity to be part of conversations where we are thinking so big, but also able to execute those big things, right? I was never able to be in that space, and I was never able to imagine, I could never imagine that is something that could be possible for me, right? So the way I think about content, the way I think about creators, the way I think about this industry as a whole has taken a huge shift. Like, although I hold my beliefs that I have, and that those are the beliefs that I've also brought into the ecosystem, I have also learned a lot from how these people think at a much higher level where I was not able to think before.
So if someone is doing all of these things, right, how do they get on the network? Like, should they reach out to you? Is there like a process?
Just like, it can be like, we have a form on the website that we go through regularly that they can apply to. They can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever, if something. And again, don't reach out to me just like a lot of people have started reaching out to me. They'll reach out to me, hi Rohit, can I be part of Zero Net? Don't do that.
No.
If you really think, see, you get like 1 or 2 opportunities to be able to put yourself out there, right? So be sort of prepared as to how you want to pitch yourself and what sort of content you want to do, and prepare some sort of a concept note so that at least we have something to rely on.
Right. I think watching this episode should be something that they should do to better understand what is the behind the scenes and how do they fit into the bigger picture, right? But as a network, let's say if we were creators that were coming on Zerodha, right? What do we get? Like, what's the benefit of being on a network like 01?
To a large extent, it's more about like we are supporting them through their content journey. We're not really taking ownership or anything. We're not looking at like ROI or anything. We are just supporting creators in being able to create the content that they want to create, right? What internally we call ourselves the predictability partner. There's a term that Sagar and the team likes to use a lot, right? Which is that creators don't have a lot of predictability as to how it can go. We are the predictability partners. Yes, we are there. You create the content and do the best you can, right? But doing the best you can is a big aspect of it. So that is one. Second, obviously, they get access to our network that we have at Zerodha because we are connected to a lot of people. Third is they are able to get in touch with brands that we are in touch with. So these are some of the things that they get as part of the network.
So it seems like it's an ecosystem that you get to be part of. So the things that would be difficult for you to do otherwise, let's say monetize or hire someone, or let's say it could be like some sort of an association with Yas, I'm guessing, that becomes like you're an enabler in their journey.
We are an enabler in the content creator journey. Very well put. We are an enabler in their journey. Like a lot of times what's happening is also that when we send like creators, like when we tell them what we are doing and we sort of send them our agreement and all that, they sometimes think it's too good to be true because it's actually too good. Like if I was a creator, I would be like, wow, right? It doesn't work like a brand deal, right? We are not paying you to make one video. We are there with you for months and years. Our plan is to be with you for months and years, right? That's how we look at it, and that's how we push the creators to also look at it in that aspect. Don't think of it like कि हाँ Zerodha है, पैसे हैं तो हम पैसे मांगेंगे जितना चाहिए. Doesn't work.
So, what is like the long-term vision specifically with what you guys are doing?
See, our long-term vision is essentially to have the right associations, right? These creators that we have on board, we know that they are doing a very good job in terms of the content that they're creating, and that the sort of content that they're putting out is really going to build a trustworthy audience. The audience that they're building, we want to sort of position ourselves in a manner where we want that audience to also know that we are supporting these creators, right? So the long-term play is more like a brand game for us than just like a ROI based game which a lot of other brands sort of play in.
So if I had to sort of think from an audience perspective, it's to tell the audience these are some of the reliable channels of information that you can go to. We have vetted it. Like, this is our contribution to the whole space.
You can call it like a service to the content that is in the Indian space right now, because the idea of 01 also started with the fact that, and Sagar talks about it a lot, right? The idea started with the fact that and again, I was not part of it, I'm just telling the story that is there, which is that they were discussing creators that they watch, right, or they listen to, right? And most of the creators that they watch or listen to ended up being creators that were not in India, right? They were all foreign creators. And then they were like, why the fuck are we listening to foreign creators? Are there no Indian creators? And then they realized, no, there are no Indian creators like that. That is when they were like, ठीक है, India में करना पड़ेगा. We need to do it for the sake of building India, right? And building Bharat in general. Like our population should get more information from within the country than outside.
What's your day-to-day at 01? Like, what do you do?
I look at IPs that are being built. I talk to creators very regularly. Most of my time goes in managing the 01 network that exists. So talking to creators, helping them with their operations, monetization, etc. We talk to a lot of, like, again, we are doing a lot in the content space. So we look at a lot of new initiatives that are coming up, how we can do better, how we can add layers to the network altogether. So this is what my day-to-day looks like.
Right. It seems like one of the things that I was thinking when like you agreed to come on is that you're someone that I can totally see a 20-year-old me want to be like, right? Or someone who's aspiring in the content journey or the creator space, and for whatever reason, if they feel they're not comfortable being in front of the camera, this new sort of chapter that you are in right now would be something that's very aspirational to someone who wants to be in content but not in front of the camera, right? If you were to give a couple of pieces of advice to someone who wants to be in a place where you are right now, what would they be?
One is that work with people that are in the space instead of trying to build something on your own, right? If you want to be a creator, if you want to run an agency, join existing agencies or content creators, work with them, because there's always demand for people who are interested, right? That gives you a lot more insight and an understanding of the economy than anything else. So I would just say that, and again, networking plays a very important role. Give back. Don't always think about money. That has been a big thing for me, that because I've not just thought about money all the time, it's helped me come here where I am at, right? And again, I have much, like my ambition has just kept growing and growing, and I have a much larger ambition with me personally, with what we are doing at Zerodha as well, right? We have big ambitions, and that only comes when you take a step-by-step approach. And now, like for example, you run a 7-member team or whatever your size of agencies, you run your own thing, right? Working with people like you also will give them a certain amount of exposure that they might not get by themselves, right? And then level up yourself in that regard. Like once you've done enough, once they think that they've learned enough from you guys, move on, go to the next journey, go to another agency where they can learn more, right? So just climbing up the ladder is where, and things just work out by itself. I did not, like when I started 5 years or like 4.5 years ago, I didn't know I would be here today. I didn't even know what the future of Barely. I didn't even think in my wildest dreams that I would be able to say that I sold a company, right? Because I knew that wasn't going to be possible, because I was the face of the brand. I had to be in the content, right? But that happened. So where life leads you is not something that I can tell you, but all I would say is if you want to start, just start by working with people who are already in the space.
Yeah. I feel like one of the filters that I use, like now we have like a much more robust hiring process. One of the things that I have in my form is that have you made content yourself, right? You don't have to be the face, but have you like started a YouTube channel, an Instagram page, even like a meme chat, right? Like a WhatsApp group where you're understanding the nitty-gritties of making content. And like you said, have you been in the thick of it, right? Only then can you relate with this space and truly provide value, and then like you said, you just slowly start climbing your way and try to understand.
Tanmay Bhatta said this, right? Like he said it on Nikhil's podcast only, if I'm Nikhil Kamat's podcast only, if I'm not wrong. Hire a person who's built an Instagram channel to 10,000 followers, and that guy will be able to give you more returns than a CMO, right? I don't agree to it to a certain. I mean, actually, when the context in which he said it at that point is different from what it is now, because now it's much easier for a person to sort of scale a Instagram page to 100,000 also, because you never know what will go viral and then they'll just die down the next day, right? So I don't necessarily agree with it, but it is important to a certain extent. So more than how much they have been able to grow, it's the amount of time they have spent in the space is what matters, right? Someone could have spent like say 4 months, they could have scaled it to 200k, right? But someone could have spent say 2 years and not even have scaled it to 100k. But that 2-year guy will be much more valuable to me than that 4-month guy.
We keep talking about this on the show that experience in the creator economy is not based on time, it's based on quantity, right? How many pieces of content have you put out? How many platforms have you touched? How many different whatever strategies, the story thing came out, LinkedIn stories was there, carousels is there, content is there. How much have you experimented and kind of put your footprint across all platforms? No, makes sense. I think just to wrap up, would love to know more about Litschool. You talked about Arihant, right? And Wobble Dub Dub. We did a previous episode on Arihant and Wobble Dub Dub. I love that guy, right? He seems to be an entrepreneur's entrepreneur, right? That's the way that I think about him in his head. What is that like? What is the whole Litschool concept? I believe you're a teacher there, right?
Yeah, I am a mentor there. I go for classes here and there. So Litschool is a very innovative project, I would say. Actually, at this point, I can't call it a project. It's a very good established business right now. The idea is simply that India doesn't have enough creators, and there is no mechanism for a creator to know how to grow, right? Litschool teaches them that, right? Which is a great thing because brands need creators, agencies need creators, right? So there's a high demand for creators, which Litschool is now able to fulfill through how they are able to sort of mentor these students and everything. So I feel like, and everyone that I speak to about Litschool, they have very high regard for it. Even I have very high regard for the people. Arihant obviously is a big part of it, and Arihant and Ayush Wadhwa, both of them are a big part of it. Although it comes under Arihant, there are other people running the show, right?
I think this is Dhruv, right? If I'm not wrong. Dhruv or
Dhruv, I don't know, but Kundan is there and
Kabir. Sorry,
Kabir, I don't. Yeah, Kabir is still there. I'm not sure if he's still there or not, but Kundan and Arpit are the CEOs over there, and Lalit Dhanush, who I've been in touch with for a long time. Again, through random things, he also used to run a company. Now he shut that down, and he's managing the entire student board, he's a principal over there, right? So those guys are. I think it's a phenomenal thing, and I think there are more creator schools that are going to come up. It's already in the works that I know of. Which is going to work out really well.
Is this a growing market, like people paying to learn how to make content?
Yeah. People paying to learn about creating content is a big... I can't tell you the exact size of the market, but then with the kind of FOMO that the content creation has created and the kind of glamour that people want to get into, a lot more kids want to learn how to create content, right? Like, I don't know about India's data, but in US, the data says that majority of people want to be YouTubers, right? Again, I can't pinpoint the numbers. If you guys have, you can probably throw it on the screen or whatever. But a lot of people want to be content creators and they see it as a very easy step towards making money, which it is not. But these schools kind of fulfill that, and there's a growing demand for creators, because not everyone understands organic content, like we were talking about, right? Brands don't understand. Zerodha is one of the
outliers in this aspect.
The only outlier I can think of. Like, no, right. I'm not saying it because I work there. Like, even the reason I wanted to work there, and I told you that I took a cut on the amount of money I was getting, simply because I know that they are the ones that are in the right step towards how creator economy should be looked at. No one else is looking at it the way Zerodha is.
Do you think, creators paying to learn is like a good direction, or do you think the whole angle of this will change over time?
Students paying to learn is a very good concept, especially because there is demand for such people in the space, right? That demand exists tomorrow or not. See, at least in my understanding, that demand is going to exist, right? And the more innovative and creative you are, the better it is for you. But they also cannot just rely on this as their thing, right? They should be more circular in their learning. So what I'm trying to say is they should understand marketing as a whole, and not just organic growth is just not the aspect that they should be in, right? But yeah, paying to learn content creation is a thing that still has a lot of demand.
What would be your one your go-to reminder, or your go-to quote you have read or something, specifically with content, like something that you follow or something that you would suggest other people?
See, if I have to be philosophical that way, like I've said it like this, like third, fourth time I'm saying it, everything happens for a reason is something that I've just embedded in my head, right? So if anything wrong also happens in my life, everything happens for a reason. It just helps me go through tough times and good times the same way, right? Good things happen, I'm not like celebrating it too much, because I'm like, yeah, had to happen. If bad things happen, I'm like, yeah, had to happen, right? What's the way forward? So that really, that in my mind really puts things in perspective. If I have to put something on the billboard, especially for the kind of audience that is watching, I would say, don't be a full-time creator. That is a big thing, because people get lost in that glamour of being a content creator, but they don't realize the hardships that come with it. Yes, you can be a naive optimist that can sort of, again, you can be. It's not that you can't be. It's just that it's a much harder path to go into, especially if you don't have any, like I had financial backing. My family was supportive. It worked out. For you, I'm guessing the same case. I don't know about you. Maybe the same case, right? But for a lot of people, that's not there. And it'll be wrong of me to tell them, take content creation full time. India is not Indians in general are not in a position to be able to do that in their life. There are much better things and bigger things that they can put their time and life into. So I would never want to propagate for anyone to be a full-time creator simply because it's so hard.
I personally see this like, if you want to say you're a creator, like that is not the way, that is why you should be doing it. But if you think like, I have a story to tell, start telling the story, you'll figure out like if you are one.
Think of the byproduct of content instead of just thinking of content as a whole thing. Byproduct, like for example, I started because my byproduct was that, okay, I wanted to sell like soft skill courses, right? That was my byproduct of starting. The journey took me somewhere else. That's a separate thing altogether.
Just to close, I was just thinking about this. I've never said this out loud, but I have not made a single rupee with my content. I have made a lot of money. After I quit my job and got into content, but none of it has been directly because of my content. It has been indirectly because of the services I offer, because the skills that I have, because whatever, like my ability to do things. It has not been because of the content that I make.
Even for us at Barely Opinionated, we were not making a lot of content just by creating content on Barely Opinionated. We were making our majority of revenues coming because we were doing other things, which was being fueled because we had an audience in Barely Opinionated. right? We were running an agency, we were doing XYZ, XYZ, XYZ. All of that was possible simply because we had a kind of a social standing, because we had built an audience with Barely Opinionated. We had gone through that process for a long time.
I think as a closing thing, what I would love to ask you is, one of the reasons why we did this is also because we realized how lonely the creator journey is, right? And the long-term vision is to have like a close-knit creator community that is kind of, that stems off of the show, right? Is there anyone else that you would want to recommend that we reach out and get on the podcast?
There's so many people that you should be getting on, right? And each of them come with their different, their variety of things. Some of the top people that you should definitely get is, one is Arihant, you should get from WLDD. You should definitely try to get Rohit from Yas, or you should get Varun for sure. Although he doesn't do a lot of these things, that'll be difficult.
I would love to talk to Azan as well.
You should get Azan as well. He has a different perspective and a unique perspective. These are some of the names that are coming on the top of my mind from a creator economy perspective.